What is going on, traders? We got a lot to talk about. Before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, we got to talk about it. We finally got that dip that we've been talking about for the past 2, 3 videos. I had people doubting me, messaging me, laughing at me, saying I was wrong. And I'm like, man, it's only been like a day since I put that video out, and people are already talking crazy to me, So it's really crazy. And I'm not going to brag. I'm not going to gloat. I'm not even going to talk crap back. All I ask is if you were one of those people, you gotta give me my flowers and hit me with that like button. Just that's all I ask for. Put your ego to the side, give me a like. That's all I ask for. All right. Other than that, moving on. So right now we're looking at the NQ daily time frame, and we have to talk about where we go from here. What are my expectations from here? Now, we're looking at this rising wedge pattern. We rejected here, rejection, 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 so on and so forth. And then we finally hit the top of this rising wedge once again. And now we are seeing yet another rejection on the NQ. And so where I'm thinking we're going to go from here is towards that 21,000 to 8270 range, right about here where these guys are. Okay, so that's where I'm thinking we're going to go. Now, the market can play games. We do have CPI data Wednesday, so maybe we can just consolidate up here, maybe one more day or two, or see a little bit more upside here. But regardless, I do think at some point in time we are going to retest this area here before potentially seeing another bounce. Now, I want to make something clear here. I don't think we're going to completely break down. And what I mean by that is I don't think we're going to break below this rising wedge, or at least we're not ready to break below the rising wedge yet. Where we do one of these moves and then just completely break down. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we have one more rally back towards the upside, one more pump to the upside, and I'm looking at about 21,800, 22,000, somewhere around that range before we start talking about a real major drop. So I do think we're going to see one more pump before we see a massive drop. Okay, so I want to make that clear. I think this is just a healthy pullback before we see more upside. So just want to make that clear. Hopefully I end up being right on this one. But if we don't, then I will watch for, if we're not right, then I will watch for a break below this rising wedge. And then from there, that's where things can get ugly. Okay. So we look at the triple Qs, daily time frame. Once again, rising wedge pattern, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here. We keep talking about this, and this is why I love these patterns. They're just so predictable, so easy to trade, guys. I mean, if you don't believe in any other pattern, you gotta believe in these rising wedge and falling wedge patterns because they are liquid gold, and I talk about them all the time on this channel. They're so predictable. And so we look at the triple Qs, and again, we need to fill this gap. At some point in time, at around 517, 516.5, we are going to fill that gap. It's just a matter of when. And again, we can play games maybe a day or two from here where we just continue to consolidate towards the upside before we see a major breakdown. And if we do break down from here almost immediately, then that's fine as well. But regardless, I still think we're going to see one more bounce. Once we hit this gap fill, I do think we're going to get a potential bounce from here and start heading towards that 530 target. So yes, 530 is still on the table. I gave you guys a price target of 520, 525. We hit both of those targets. I still think there is potential for the triple Qs to see that 530 range. It's just all a matter of when, and I do think we're going to see that before possibly Christmas. Okay, so we'll see. And I guess you could call that the Santa rally, right? And so that's what I'm looking at in regards to the triple Qs. Watch for a move towards this gap fill, and after that, we can see a massive bounce back towards the upside, towards that 530 range. And so we look at the ES. And so ES, pretty much the same thing. I mean, we just continue to fail to get above that 6,100 level. And if we go to a smaller time frame, let's go to the 2 hour time frame here. Again, rising wedge pattern. What do we talk about? We talk about rolling over all the time. Rising wedge pattern. What happened here? We broke out, right? We continue to fail to get above 6,100. We did it one good time, failed once again. Bear stepped in, said nope. And then look what happens here. We roll outside of the rising wedge pattern. These patterns are so easy to trade, so predictable. Anytime you break above a rising wedge pattern, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up rolling over and it's going to be a false breakout. So that's what we're looking at on the ES. So right now I'm looking at a move towards 6,050. After that, we'll have to talk about potentially more downside towards about 6,020. And then we'll have to see what happens from there. So that's what I'm looking at in regards to the ES. If we can get back above 6,100, I would even go as far as to say about 6,110, right where these guys are. Then we can start talking about more upside and start really heading towards that 6,180, 6,200 range. But until that happens, not much to talk about here. And so we look at the SPY. And so I gave you guys a price target. I said 604 is my price target for downside on the SPY. Had people doubting me, but It is what it is. And so we look at the 4 hour time frame here, and this is what I was warning about. I said you have to look at everything. Someone in the YouTube comments was like, "Oh, but Triple Q's made new highs." So, yeah. And I'm just like, well, everything else is dropping. So what does that matter? And so the SPY is dropping, right? We're seeing the SPY drop. We saw the SPY hug below this rising wedge pattern, and I said it wasn't yet convincing until we break further down. And now I'm pretty convinced that we're going to see more downside. We got that first price target of 604, and so the next target I'm looking at is 602, and then after that I'm looking at 600. Now, the real problem is if we break below 598. If we break below 598, that's where things get ugly. But we're not going to talk about that until if and when we get there. But right now, as long as we're staying above at least 600, I say we're pretty safe for more upside or another bounce towards the upside. And we can start heading as high as about at least 612, 615. So those targets are still on the table as well before we start talking about more downside. So that's what I'm looking at in regards to the SPY. So things are not looking too bad. Okay. I want to make that clear. Things are not looking horrendous or terrible or looking like the end of the world. We still have a lot of these ETFs or indices holding these patterns. And SPY is like the only one or one of the only few that's really below its rising wedge pattern. But this can all just simply lead into a bear trap before we start seeing another pump back towards the upside. So regardless of the downside, I think downside is very limited here. So we'll see. But that's what I'm looking at in regards to the SPY. And so we look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin slowly recovering after hours. And so someone in the Discord was saying Bitcoin and Microsoft have a thing tomorrow. Um, Feel free to fact check me on that. I haven't checked myself, but that is something to pay attention to. And so this could be a sell the rumor, buy the news type of deal here. And it's probably why Microsoft has been holding up so strongly throughout the day, despite us seeing that slight drop in the market. So that's something to pay attention to. It is supposed to be tomorrow, so we'll see. But I do think as long as Bitcoin holds at least 97K, I mean, you're seeing it here. Bulls are stepping in and they are not letting this thing drop. They stepped in here massively and they just continue to try to hold this trend here as long as they can or as much as they possibly can. So we're seeing bulls just step in right here. So as long as we hold 97K, I think Bitcoin has the potential to recover back to the upside. But if we can reclaim 100K, then I definitely think we're going to see that 105 target that I was talking about. For now, things are looking good. And one can argue that you're looking at a potential double bottom here. Again, it's a potential double bottom until we break the neckline at around 101,700, I would say. So something to look out for in regards to Bitcoin. I mean, you can just mark this trend on your charts right here and just wait for Bitcoin to break this. I mean, if it breaks this, then obviously you're going to head much higher. And I'm looking at about 105. Okay, so 105,000. That's what I'm looking at in regards to Bitcoin. All right. So again, this is why you look at everything. Bitcoin was dropping. SPY was dropping, or at least SPY was consolidating. And then you talk about the semiconductors, right? Nvidia. What happened with Nvidia? It broke below that 140 level. Okay. And so we look at SMH. Okay, so we look at SMH. SMH gave up to 48. And so it's only obvious from here. I wouldn't even say obvious, but it's safe to assume from here that we could see further downside towards about 240s on SMH. And we talked about this in the last video where we have a head and shoulders pattern. You have your shoulder here, your head here, another shoulder here, and then you broke the neckline and look what's happening. Your measured move is all the way towards 242. I'm betting on us filling this gap all the way at 238, but we'll see. But SMH not looking too good. And so if we're assuming that SMH is not looking too good, then we have to talk about Nvidia not looking too good, right? And so Nvidia, pretty much the same thing. Now, Nvidia has the potential to head towards 132 from here. Okay. Now, I will say this much: we are at pretty decent support here, so it's really tough to call. But as long as Nvidia holds here, there is potential for more upside. Okay, there is potential for a bounce back towards the upside, and then we can head back towards at least 145. So we could see a move like this. And I mean, I guess you can argue that this is somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So you will have a shoulder here, right? You will have another shoulder here. I'm not a shoulder, head here, and then you have a potential shoulder here if we can get like a decent bounce from here. So there might be something here, okay? There might be something. Then you have your neckline, okay? You have your neckline here. And so this could be one of those. This is actually really beautiful. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Okay, so check this out on your 4 hour time frame. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree if this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Just keep it respectful, right? And so this could be one of those situations where one is lying and the other is telling the truth, where Nvidia could be lying or telling the truth, and SMH is lying or telling the truth. Okay, so something to pay attention to here. This is very, very nice. Okay, I really like this. So if we break below this, then I will be concerned in regards to Nvidia. I would say 137 is your key level to look for, but if we get a bounce from here, that could be really good. Okay, so something to pay attention to in regards to Nvidia. So we look at IWM, we look at the Russell. The Russell, again, slowly breaking down. 237. I told you guys, 238. You want to see the Russell hold 238, and it gave up 238. It's been having a hard time getting below 238, and it finally did it. And so we could be looking at more downside towards this 235 target right here. Okay, right here before potentially seeing some type of bounce or retest and then breaking down even further. So that's what we're looking at in regards to the Russell. We keep making lower highs, and now we are making a lower low. So something to look out for in regards to the Russell. And so that's pretty much all I have. I mean, I guess we could look at the VIX real quick. And so the VIX. So calls are coming in for the VIX, and I told you guys. I mean, look at this. We talked about this for the past two videos. Clean bounce, you gapped up, and look what's happening. So I do think the VIX is going to head towards 18, which will pretty much confirm that we're going to see more downside in regards to the market. So definitely something to look out for here. But right now, I mean, the VIX did leave a gap here, so this is another situation where the market can play games where we see one of those consolidation moves where the VIX just fills this gap before we do another move back towards the upside, or we just continue higher from here. But 18 is what I'm looking at for now, short term, in regards to the VIX. Other than that, that's really all I have. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. If you want to see how I'm trading this week or what we're trading this week, Discord link is in the description below. We had another earnings play. This is four earnings plays we hit in a row. Oracle. So we played Oracle after hours. We played Oracle and we played puts. We played 170 puts. We took them at around 195. Yeah, we took the puts at around 195 right here at this level. And as you guys can see, Oracle is dropping. So it's going to be a nice little bag if this can hold at open. So again, you want access to these plays like this. Discord link is in the description below. Four earnings plays in a row that we hit on. We're looking to play AVGO and maybe Adobe. We'll see. But other than that, that's all I have. Discord link is in the description below. Once again, until the next video, traders, have a good one.